I went from 0 to 6K per month with appointment setting in less than 3 months. And I've also helped over a dozen people make thousands per month with it too. Including Seb, who went from failing at reselling to making over $8,000 per month in less than 4 months. And Sturgios, who went from working 10 hours per day as a chef to making over $5,000 per month in less than 3 months. If I had to start from scratch today, with no experience, no connections, and no clue where to begin, this is the exact step-by-step blueprint I would follow to make good money with appointment setting. But I have some bad news. If you do not have the attention span to sit down for more than 5 minutes and watch this video, you are probably not going to make it. I am going to explain everything from what appointment setting is, how much you can make, how to actually set appointments, where to find your first offer with zero experience, and how you can make thousands per month with this. With that being said, let's dive in. High ticket appointment setting training. First of all, welcome. This training alone is going to be more valuable for you and more knowledgeable than any other paid program out here. And I'm giving it to you today all for free. So I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you get some value out of it. The first thing we need to talk about is what is appointment setting. If you know much about sales and you know much about appointment setting, you know that it is the first process or the first touch point of the 4-step sales process. We have the setter, we have the closer, we have the sale, and we have the fulfillment. And we're going to talk about this in detail later on. But the first point, and the point I want to put emphasis on, is the top funnel or the setter. First of all, every coaching business needs clients to make money. And if we use the example of a fitness coach, they need to get people that want to lose fat or put on muscle to pay them a certain amount so they can make money, right? So every coaching business needs clients to make money. But the problem is coaches don't have time to talk to leads all day. They have to focus on closing deals. They have to focus on setting deals. They have to actually do the fulfillment. They need to make sure their clients put on weight, put on muscle, or lose weight. And they have so many different focuses and they just don't have the time. So they hire appointment setters. And that's kind of where you come in. And we'll talk about this in detail. But your job as an appointment setter is pretty simple. You talk to leads, you find out if they have money, and then you book them in for a call. And what this pretty much consists of is whether you call a lead or you message them, you pretty much ask them questions like what their goals are, what their problem is, why they want help, because you need to figure out 2 things. Do they have money? And are they mentally qualified and are they ready to invest? Is it urgent enough for them to take action? Or is it just one of those things they want to think about? Because for people to get on a sales call, they need to have a specific pain point so they want to buy. But they also need to have money so they want to buy. To break that down, we talk to leads, find out if they have money, and then we book them in for a sales call. Now, every time the closer sells the program, you get paid a percentage of the sale. Now, let's go back to this funnel real quick. We have the setter, that's you, and we have the closer. The closer is the person taking these sales calls that you are booking people in for. They close the deal and you get paid out a commission. In return, the business ends up making more money since they can focus on the more important things while you help book in appointments. Now, what makes appointment setting so lucrative and so beneficial? The first thing is the fact that it's entry-level sales. With appointment setting, you don't really need experience. It is an entry-level sales role that most people can do. And the truth is my 13-year-old little brother can do it. You don't need the most experience in the world. It's not like closing that is super difficult to learn. You can realistically learn setting in a month, maybe 2. Now, the second point is that it's fully remote. Now think about it. If you are working as an appointment setter, you don't need to be in person. You don't need to, work in an office. You're probably on your phone or you're on your laptop or computer. But most of the time, you are realistically on your phone. And the third point is the scalable income since you're paid on commission. Since it is a sales job, you're not really just paid on your time like other office jobs or working in a supermarket. You're paid based on your performance, meaning commissions, meaning that the more calls you book and the more calls that get closed, the more money you make. It gives you an incentive to work harder, but it also means you can make more money since you're paid on commission. And the question is, how much can you actually make as an appointment setter? Now, as a setter, you are paid on a commission basis or on a results basis like I just mentioned. And if we use this example, if you book in a call and the closer closes the deal for $6,000, which is really average nowadays, you will get 5 to 7.5% of the amount, meaning you will get $300 to $450 per sale. And you can imagine why that stacks up so quickly. If you look at it like this, 10 sales at $300, you make $3,000. The average earnings for an appointment setter kind of depends, but this is what I've seen happen the most with a lot of guys who begin. In the first month, you don't really make that much money since you're putting so much emphasis on learning the skill and finding your first few offers or offer. So you might make $0 to $500. The second month is where it kind of picks up and you get a bit of momentum and you're doing 1,000 to 2,000. Month 3, you might do 2 to 4K. And then month 4 is kind of where it goes up and you go 4K, 5, 6, even more. So over time, top performing setters can make anywhere from $7,000 to $12,000 per month. Just like Seb, who made over $8,000 last month, Seb went from flipping shoes to making over 8K per month at the age of 18, and he's also skipped college and quit a JP Morgan apprenticeship to go all in on sales. And this is an in-person client interview we did. Or Sturgios, who made over $5,500 last month. He was a chef on a Greek island job. He was working 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and making $1,200 per month. Last month, like I said, he made over $5,500. And this is another interview we did. Or Ricky, who made over $3,900 in 20 days. And he has a funny story because he dropped out at 12, worked a construction job with his dad, tried to make money online, didn't succeed, but since working together, he made over $3,900 in 20 days at 16 years old. And this is a picture here where he was kind of telling me, made 20 days in, made $3,920. Most people nowadays kind of spend months on end trying to, start a business or build a brand. But the thing is, this is kind of different because you don't really need to build an audience or, sell anything or create a product. You are going into an already successful business and you are basically making them more money by booking in more calls. So it's already proven to work. You already know this business is operational. You already know this business has the right systems and they're making money and they're doing everything right. Their fulfillment is good. You're just going in, helping them book more calls and making them more money. But to become an appointment setter, there are things you need to know. And we're gonna go through a few things. The first few things I wanna go through are the rules that you should remember. The first rule you need to know is to match tonality. And this is make or break. Because if you don't sound like the person you're working with, nobody will really trust you. And what I mean by that is you are essentially going into a business, you are going and signing into someone's social media account and booking in leads, pretending to be that coach. You can't really talk like you're not that coach because then they're going to be like, who am I speaking to? You need to act and represent the coach and therefore match the tonality, the way they speak, the way they act, the way they say things. The second thing is detach yourself from outcomes. You are not chasing leads, you are qualifying them. And like I said earlier, you are trying to see A, do they have money? And B, is this something that's important enough for them to do? Is there urgency? Is there importance? And the third point is do not sell in the DMs. Your only goal is to book the call. You do not sell ever. Unless you're closing mid-ticket or low-ticket in the DMs, which you don't really see too often, your main emphasis should be do not sell in the DMs, just booking calls. That's why they have a closer. The next point is to match energy. You don't want to be dry and you don't want to be overwhelming. If you are talking to someone and they ask you a question and you give them way too much, they may not be inclined to give you as much back. If you were talking to a lead or a prospect or a person in the DMs, you don't really want to give them a little bit. If they give you a whole paragraph and you give them a tiny sentence, they're not going to feel inclined to give you this big reply. So you need to make sure you match the energy that they are giving you. So you're more inclined to have a conversation, build more rapport, which we'll talk about in the future, and essentially book them in easier. You also need to make sure you know your offer and understand the ins and outs of the offer. Now, that doesn't mean you know every single thing and every single pain point. But if somebody talks about a specific pain point or a specific problem they have, you want to understand what they're talking about so you can give them a little bit. Because if you're talking to them, they give you pain and you have no clue what they're talking about, it's going to be really difficult for you to act as the authority. And we'll talk about that in the future. Now, the final rule you need to follow is do not sound like a setter. You want to be natural. You want to avoid emojis and exclamation marks. Just talk like you're talking casually. You don't need to put too much emphasis on the conversation. Just sound like the coach. Do not sound like a setter. We've gone through the rules, now we also need to go through some key principles. The first point is speed to lead. The faster you respond or reply, the higher your booking rate, essentially the more money you're gonna make. Now, 78% of leads will buy from the company that responds to their query first. Meaning if you just reply to a message quicker, you're gonna book them in quicker and they're gonna buy quicker. You also want to keep it simple. You want to speak as if you were explaining something to a 12-year-old, and you want to keep messages clear, friendly, and to the point. You're going to talk to a lot of different people every single day. Whether you have 10 conversations, 50, whatever it is, you're going to have a lot of different conversations and talk to different types of people. Some younger, some older. You want to keep it simple generally because it's going to make things a lot easier for you. The third point I want to talk about is authority and confidence. You don't want to sound like a desperate salesperson. You do want to sound like the person that knows what they're talking about, and you want to be calm, direct, and certain. You want to show the transformation. When you were talking to a lead or a prospect that wants to lose weight, for example, they're not buying the product or the new protocol that you're selling, they're buying the transformation. You want to kind of focus on what their life will look like after solving the problem and after that main problem is gone. You don't want to be like, yeah, this new mechanism is going to help you do this. And this is something that's important and a lot of people neglect, but you want to qualify before you book. Bad calls will waste time for you and your team, so you only want to book in pre-qualified leads. They should be the only people getting on call. And also, this is worth remembering, it takes about 3 touch points on average to book in a lead. 3 touch points essentially means having at least 3 conversations before you book them in. So sometimes you may talk to a lead today, and they may buy in a month. It doesn't always mean that if you talk to them today, you need to book them in today. Setting is a volume game, and it also means having conversations and nurturing people over time. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. Now, what I want to go through is how to actually set these appointments, because we've talked about what setting is, and we've talked about some rules, we've talked about principles, but how do you actually set these appointments? To successfully book calls, we are going to use this structure, and this is by far the easiest framework you can follow. Number 1 is the opening into the introduction. Number 2 is the current situation into subtle qualification. Number 3 is desired situation into report building opportunity. Problem solution into finding pain to offer the solution, and proposing a call to get them on a sales call. The 3 main points you want to put emphasis on is the building rapport, finding pain points, and creating the urgency. Now, building rapport essentially refers to the fact that you're going to talk to people and you're going to have a casual conversation. If you ask questions and they answer, and you ask questions and they answer, you're going to have a conversation that looks like an interview. But if you just talk to them, so that you ask something, they give you something, and you respond, and then they respond, it seems more like a conversation, it seems more natural, and they're more inclined to like you. That's building rapport. Finding pain points is essentially figuring out what they're struggling with. You don't want to go for 3 pain points. If you find one main pain point that's big enough, you can use that to book them in on a call. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. And the third point is the creating urgency. And we're going to go through this in a couple different ways, but you essentially want to make them realize that now is the time that they should probably take action. Before anything, we need conversations. And another word for conversations that I'm going to use often is leads or prospects. And the thing we need to ask ourselves is, where do these leads actually come from? And there's 2 main ways. There's inbound, which means that they're messaging us and they're interested in our product. And there's outbound, which is warm outbound, and essentially means we are messaging people already in our audience that are maybe interested, but they're just on the fence about joining. So we want to reach out to those people, and we also want to respond to the people that are reaching out to us. But how do we actually build rapport? We build rapport throughout the conversation by relating to the prospect, treating it like a conversation and not a sale, and avoiding sounding like an appointment setter like we talked about earlier. So we have the rapport covered, but how do we create pain points? There's a few different ways, and we're going to ask questions like, what have you tried so far to achieve your goal? Whether it's a weight loss program, whether it's a trading offer, whether it's make money online offer. How long have you been struggling with this pain point or problem? And how does it feel that your problem is affecting this specific area of your life? This one depends on the context, and as they all do, you can't really use all of them for every single scenario. You want to learn to be able to apply them to whatever situation you need to. How do we create urgency or dig pain? So there's 2 different ways. We can say something or we can ask something. And for example, you can say, honestly, I get that. I feel like the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to solve whatever problem. Or you can say, most people wait until it's too late to fix this, and then by then they've lost whatever it is they've lost. And the second way, like I said, is just saying things. We're asking things. Why have you been trying to solve this problem? Or why are you trying to solve X now? And what happens if you put it off for another 6 months? Now, this is quite forward. The main thing for you to understand is that these are all really good points, and these are all really good things you can say, but you need to make them applicable to the situation. Otherwise, it's going to be really confusing. So you can't just use them naturally. You're going to have to put them in different contexts, and I'm going to show you how to do that too. When you ask questions, ask yourself, what am I trying to get out of this? What is the best case scenario, and what is the worst case scenario? If you know what you're going to get out of the question or what you're trying to get out of the question, it will make more sense on when to ask it and why. If you ask yourself what the best case scenario is, you know what to expect, but you also know the worst case scenario, so you know if the question is even worth asking. Now we're going to move on to inbound leads, and this is the first type of leads we're going to talk about. The general structure for inbound leads will look like this. It's going to be step 1. You do a profile review, you scan their bio and their posts, and you basically look for red flags. Step 2 is going to be opening the message and saying, hey name, mind if I ask you a couple questions to see if this is a good fit? Step 3 is going to be the qualification questions. So what do you do for a living? Trying to figure out if they can afford it. Why are you interested in this now? Trying to figure out why it's urgent, why it's a pain point, a problem for them. What's your biggest struggle with this problem? Also figuring out the pain. And what have you tried so far? So we kind of figure out their previous efforts, and we also go back to urgency. And step 4, proposing a call. If you're open to it, let's jump on a call soon. We'll cover your situation. We'll talk about how we can help you reach X goal in X time frame. Sound good? Now, obviously, you want to change this. This varies, like I said. If the lead is desperate, we don't really ask, but we state. If the lead is uncertain, you can kind of ask if they want to get a call. Over time, you'll get better at this, so don't worry. The main emphasis of learning this structure now so you know how to apply it. You're also going to need to learn how to handle objections. But before you do that, you need to figure out what an objection is. An objection is basically a belief or a concern that prevents someone from taking action. For example, if somebody doesn't have money, they may not want to join. If somebody has a fear objection and they're not sure if it's the right thing for them, they're not going to want to join. That's an objection. Sometimes when you're trying to book a lead in for a call, they will have objections. However, you've stumbled across the best video for appointment setting you're ever going to find. So I have the best objection handling method right now that I'm going to show to you. This is essentially the ACA method. Acknowledge, connect, and answer. You want to show empathy, you want to kind of validate their concern and make them realize you can hear them. You want to relate to their situation, show understanding so you can agree, you can share a story, you can do whatever you want. And then you do your answer, where you reframe their thinking and you handle the objection with confidence by either asking a question or doing a statement. For example, we are going to talk about the I've been scammed before. You can be like, I hear you, that's tough, I've been scammed before too, it feels like shit. The way I like to think about it is if my partner cheated on me, would that stop me from dating again? This is a very harsh example, as you can see. So you don't want to use this too comfortably. This is a really rough one, but you can see we're kind of applying the ACA method here where we're acknowledging, and then we're going into the connection saying, I've dealt with this too. And then we ask them to think about, I like to say, if my partner cheated on me, would that stop me from dating? So like I said, this is harsh. This is, like I said, a fear objection. If you're able to relate and bring their guard down, they're more likely to hear you out, and then you're more likely to be able to give them your perspective and kind of open them up. Another objection you're going to see is, I need to think about it. I totally get it, name. Out of curiosity, what's holding you back? Because usually when people say this, it's either time or money. Is it one of these things or is it something else? This, once again, is a little bit forward, but it is pretty good because you are essentially figuring out what it specifically is. Using questions like this will help you get the truth. So is it this or is it something else, name? For example, you can see here, I totally get it. Out of curiosity, what's holding you back? Because usually when people say this, it's time or money. But is it these things or is it genuinely something else? You're more inclined to tell me the truth because I asked you such a specific question. Now, something you're going to see really often is the how much is it? And what I like to say is it's difficult for me to give you an answer up front right now. However, we can discuss everything in detail on call. Does that sound fair? Because ideally, you do not want to drop the price before the sales call. When you do that, their mind starts creating all these infinite objections that you're not really able to handle. There's also going to be some disqualifiers you are going to look for. For example, if they're unemployed, if there is no urgency, if there's no financial ability, meaning they don't have finances, or if they're just in the wrong location and they're maybe in a third world country, there's a probability they will not have money. That's essentially disqualified. Now I want to show you some examples. And the first one is going to be this fitness offer. So you can see here, this guy reached out to the setter and the coach and said, hey dude, thanks for checking in. I'm keen on working with you. I'd like to figure out a plan. Can you help me? Whatever. He said, for sure, man. Cool if I ask you a couple questions, or mind if I ask you a couple questions? Pretty much same thing we talked about. And then when he did that, he started to qualify. So where are you based? London. Okay, if he's in London, he's obviously in a first world country. He probably has more money and he's more inclined to have money than someone in a third world country. What do you do for work? Once again, subtle qualification, but also an opportunity to build rapport and have a nice conversation. So wealth management specifically in sport and entertainment. And I said, wow, that's pretty interesting. How are you finding it? Is it stressful or are you enjoying it? So he kind of uses this as an opportunity to have the conversation and make it seem more natural and casual. So there's less sales process, basically. Yeah, I bet I have a couple friends in finance, mad stressful. And the reason I ask is because I'm curious about how you're finding the balance. So this is kind of where he transitions into figuring out how his fitness journey is going. Because you don't want to just be like, how's your fitness journey going? So he says, yeah, I have a couple of friends in finance. The reason I ask is because I want to figure out how you're balancing work and fitness. This is really good. So he goes from qualifying and figuring out if it's worth having the conversation if the guy actually has money. And then he moves over to the process where he basically finds out, what his pain point is so he can create the urgency and book him in for a call. So what are your goals? Oh, I just want to, I don't think I'm working out efficiently. What do you mean? He pretty much hits him with the what do you mean? And he told him he wants to lose weight, but he's not sure how. He wants to get better mobility. He wants to get a stronger core and he wants to train more efficiently. And when he does that, he gives all this pain. So what he can do here is be like, yeah, that totally makes sense. And then he can ask a couple more questions, dig into the pain. And then after a while, you're going to see, okay, so he's got the pain. He's got the urgency. He understands that this guy is mentally and financially qualified, probably. So he goes ahead and he books in a call. He says, in the next few days, I have a couple time slots. Let's jump on a call and I can get to know you better and I'll show you everything. How does that sound? And then he went ahead, he booked in the guy. So he had to follow up. Like you can see, the guy didn't reply. And then he ended up booking on a call, buying. And just like that, that was a $4,000 sale. The setter got $200 just for having a conversation with someone who was already interested. They just needed some questions answered. They needed to get the pain. They needed to get some urgency. And then they booked them in to make it easier for the closer. We looked at a fitness offer. Now let's look at a business opportunity, a biz op, or a trading offer, helping people make money online. So you can see the guy DM'd essentially the setter and the coach, and he said trade, or like the CTA, the call to action, the word you're meant to message someone if you're interested in what they're selling. And he said, "What's up, bro? Appreciate you reaching out. Cool if I ask a few questions." He said, "Yeah, really love your videos, by the way." So straight away, he was really interested. He was really motivated, and he really liked the person. So he could take that and he said, "Yeah, really appreciate that. Psychology is really important." And then he kind of asked him, how has trading been for you? So he was pretty straight to the point. He said trading was pretty good. He just faced this problem. And then from here, he kind of figured out, okay, the pain point was psychology, but what have you tried to do to fix it? And he kind of told him from here, okay, I tried to do this, but it's not really working. So he said, yeah, that totally makes sense. What do you want to do with this? What are your goals looking like? Obviously he wants to make some money. And he said, what are you trying to do long term? After asking him what he wanted to do, he kind of said, okay, well, yeah, I want to make some money. And he said, yeah, I totally get that. I was like that too, constantly thinking about freedom, but let's do this. I'll be down to get on a call. We can talk some more, look at your strategy and your psychology, and I can help you, make money and become free with trading. From here, he booked in the guy. The guy bought $5,000 program. He got $250. There is two good ways for you to train. Number one, you can do role plays with other setters. And number two is ChatGPT role plays. If you have just begun, you are not really going to be able to train with other setters because you probably don't know any. If you have just begun, you're probably not on an offer, so you're not really able to start working on an offer and learn experience through that. You need to get good before you get on an offer. So either doing role plays with other people or doing ChatGPT role plays. Now, I'm going to give you this prompt for free. This is what we like to use. It's quite a difficult prompt because, they are going to try manipulate you. They're going to try use psychology. They're going to act as a prospect or as someone interested in your service, and you want to try book them in for a call. After doing the role play, you can ask them for feedback. You can say be harsh, and then you can get your rating, and you can constantly do those in different niches as a different setter over time. Once you build up that experience, you can be ready for an offer. The problem is booking in calls is half the job. The other half is getting them to show up. So how do you actually get people to show up? And we're going to do that by essentially maximizing the show up rate. And the show up rate is essentially the amount of people that show up to a call when you book them. And the way to calculate it is if I book in 10 people for a call and 7 people show up, my show up rate is 70%. Now, the average show up rate is about 50 to 60%, which is really shit. But the setter is trained by me, get you 70 to 90% by doing this one little thing. Post booking report. You keep the conversation going after booking them in to minimize the no-shows, which are the people that don't show up or no-show. You can ask casual questions to kind of build trust by saying, oh yeah, you're based here. How is life over there? And you have the simple conversation after booking them in throughout the period of their call, so then they're more inclined to show up to the call. The next thing is also going to be the follow-up schedule. Now, a lot of people already do this. If you're not, you definitely should. But 24 hours before the call, you want to say, hey, name, our call's tomorrow at this time. Have you watched the intro video yet? Which is essentially the pre-call material that you're going to send that the offer owner will give to you. This is going to help nurture people and make them be more inclined to buy on the call. And then 2 to 8 hours before their call, you want to say, hey, name, excited to chat in a bit. Are you still good to go? If they ghost, you want to reschedule them and warn them that this cannot happen again. And I'm going to show you an example. The setter is going to say, why didn't you show up? And the lead is going to say, I'm really sorry, I forgot. You're going to say, I can book you in for another call, but this cannot happen again. If I book you in, are you going to take it serious this time? And they say yes. And you book them in, you do the post-call report, you do the follow-ups. This time they're actually probably going to show up. If they do it again, do not book them in again. But if they don't do it again, they're going to get on the call and there's a good chance they're going to buy. The day of the call, you want to always ask an easy yes or no question to make sure they remember the call. So maybe they do remember the call. Maybe they do know that they need to show up. But if you say, hey, are you still good? They're more inclined to show up because they've already said yes. If you don't really get a reply, there's a good chance they might just bail on you. Here are some questions you can ask on the day. Did you get a chance to watch the video yet? Or are you still good to go for the call at this time? So the pre-call material or just a basic reminder. And the response handling for if they say yes or whatever it is if they say yes, you can say great, see you soon name. And if they ghost or if they don't reply, you can send them a voice note or you can call them to confirm. Now, obviously, if you're doing a voice note, you need the offer owner to do that. You can't really do that. You can call them to confirm. You can act as a right-hand man, whatever you want to do. We are now going to talk about the second way to get leads or prospects, and that is warm outbound. Instead of leads messaging you, you are reaching out to the existing audience to help push them over the edge, like we talked about earlier. Where can you find people to message? There are a couple different ways. You have story views, you have people commenting, and you also have newer followers. You can look at stories from existing or new leads, and you can reply with something casual and then slowly transition into a conversation. There are a couple rules for you to also follow here. You want to make sure every lead feels unique, so don't really copy and paste messages. You want to use open-ended questions to spark a conversation, and you want to warm them up before transitioning into a qualification process. So it's probably best to let them discuss the general topic before. And we'll talk about this in a second. The example outreach message is going to be stories or highlights. You can say, yo, this looks sick. Is this in Miami? And then they say yes or no. And then for followers, it's going to be, hey, appreciate the follow. Curious, are you following for X or for Y? So are you following for motivation, or are you interested in starting your own business or whatever it might be? Now, this is something that people face as a problem very often. Outbound into qualifying. Transitioning from warm outbound to qualifying can be really difficult for people, but a smooth transition basically looks like this. Story reply, and the setter says, yo, this looks sick, where is it? And then the lead or the prospect is going to say Miami, bro, and you're going to say, I heard gyms are sick here, or I heard gyms are sick there, and they're going to say, yeah, they are. Do you live in the States? And you're going to say, nah, I live in London, assuming the offer owner is in London. Thinking about making the move soon, though, and they said, you should, networking is sick here. And you'll say, yeah, what do you do? And they're going to say, I do X. How about you? I do X. Now you're transitioning into business through questions or statements, and then you can transition into the qualification process by basically figuring out how that's going for them. Now, I have an example I'm going to show you here as well. So the setter in this scenario says, yo, where's this, bro? Looks sick. And they're going to say Sonoma Raceway. I'm not sure if the setter knew what this was, but they researched it and they said, actually been planning to hit California for a minute now. I hear the networking there is insane. Kind of like what we talked about earlier. How do you find it? Come through, not a lot of coaches. And for context, this is like a business helping business coaches offer. So this is a bit more B2B, and it's a bit more formal than just B2C, where you're selling to a consumer or helping them make money online. This is more so for businesses, so it's a little bit more structured and more formal. But I figured I'd comment on that real quick, but you're going to see not a lot of coaches where I'm at. You should make it down to LA if you had to go to Cali. Lots of different networks, whatever. They're just talking about this. They said, PS, love your content. So this is someone that was kind of on edge. We say, I'll let you know if I head out there. I feel you, bro, kind of similar to London. Appreciate that, man. What type of business are you running? So he says he has a growth agency. I actually did something similar. I do something similar. How's it been going for you? And then over here, he's saying how it's going good. How about you? And then, they build up this conversation over time. They talk about their businesses. And then he starts asking questions because this person or this setter is the authority. So they start saying, where do you get leads or where do you find prospects? And he says, mostly organic. How about you? He talks about like outreach agency and all these other things. And he pretty much asked him, he made him realize he has a problem by saying, why don't you use Instagram for acquisition or Instagram to get clients? So like I said, this is a bit more formal. It's a bit more difficult because it's not just make money online or get healthy or, like a dating offer. This is something more about acquiring clients, something on a very different level. But they kind of talk back and forth. He talks about personal brand and he talks about coaching. Done for you instead of done with you. And then he kind of makes him realize that he doesn't really know much. And then from here, he pretty much says, let's run a call and I can help show you how I built a funnel. And then when he got on that call, he bought a program for $12,000 and he got $600 in commission. So this is B2B, but it's also more expensive, meaning you can make more money. And the thing is, once you get better at B2C and you develop a skill set with setting, you can transition into B2B, make more money, work on a more complicated offer, but it's also more expensive at the same time, so it benefits you more. Now, there are also a couple notes for outbound. You want to make sure you're reaching out to your ICP, and that's essentially your ideal customer profile. You don't want to force conversations alive. Sometimes they'll die, and that's okay. And you want to also ask questions that are related to the conversation to transition. You want to be subtle, right? So you can see in the previous example I showed you, there was no forced conversation. He reaches out, says, where is this? And then he transitions into business slowly, very subtly. And then from there, he makes him realize he has pain points, but he doesn't tell him you have a problem. He says, why don't you do this? Because that's going to fix that problem. And then from there, he transitions into a call. So cool. We've talked about setting. We've talked about how you can do all this stuff. But how do you find your first offer? But before we talk about finding the offer, we need to actually optimize your social. So we're not done yet, but we're very, very close. So you want to make sure your social media is optimized, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. I've seen so many scenarios where people got on a call or they got on an interview and their social media just wasn't optimized. They had something stupid on it. They had something that wasn't funny, and they never landed the interview because of that first impression. So I'm going to show you how you can optimize that and how you can avoid that as a problem. Because if you do not get this right, you will not get anything right. The first example I'm going to show you is one of my students. His name is Josh, and he has followers, which is good. You can see his account looks real. He has a clean bio, which talks about, his location, what he does, and, his results essentially. He has mutual followers, which means if I follow people that follow him, it's also a very good sign because it means he has trust. And he also has some very clean posts, as you can see. The only thing he can really improve on is having a results highlight where he can show his wins, so he can kind of show that he's been in the space and prove the fact that he's done around 150K in 2 months. The next example is Keitano, and he has a very similar situation. So he has followers, he has the clean bio, he has the mutual followers, and he also has the clean posts. The one thing he should change is the fact that he doesn't really have a results highlight, just like Josh, so you don't really know if he actually is doing this and if he's making good money. The mistake a lot of people make is they do this whole thing and they brand their whole account around appointment setting or around high ticket sales. This alone is good. Location and what you do is good enough. You do not need to have the whole thing as a brand. That is overkill. A quick checklist for you to follow for your account optimization is going to be a clear profile picture of you, not somebody else, not three people, not your friends, but you. The second thing is going to be you have a good amount of followers. So what that means is if you have an account that's dead and maybe you have 500 followers on it, you can still use it. If you have followers, it will help make you look more realistic than if you have 20 followers and look like a robot or a hacker or a scammer or whatever it might be. And you also want to have a bio that clearly states that you do appointment setting or high ticket sales, preferably appointment setting. You want to have at least 2 good posts, and you also want to have a results highlight over time so it's easier for you to demonstrate that you are a real person and you're actually doing what you say you're doing. Is your account good enough? You should ask yourself that if I ran a business, would I hire myself? If your business is making 20K, 30K, 40K, 100K per month, would you hire the person that just messaged you offering to be your appointment setter that has the profile you have right now? Why or why not? Because if your account looks like shit, you're going to say no. But why? How do you make your account look better? How do you make yourself look more of a professional so people will trust you more? You need to figure that out now. So we finally talked about social media optimization, but where do you actually find these offers so you can start making money? We've talked about the setting skill, we've talked about everything, but where do you find the offers? There's a couple different ways to do this, but the main way and the first way is going to be your network. Mutual friends or connects you have in the high ticket sales space. Initially, you will not have this, so we'll talk about some other ways, but you want to outreach to key people. Now, a closer, like I said, is the person who closes the deals. The manager is the person hiring or firing. The growth operator is the person that pretty much does the managing. They do the backend systems, they do the internal stuff, they do everything. They essentially run the entire behind the scenes for the brand owner. And then coaches directly might just hire you. And the third way is going to be paid communities. You want to get inside private groups where the best job offers exist, but you do need to be careful because there's a lot of scams and there's a lot of really bad course offers or courses or whatever it might be out there. Think about it like this. The guys that are hiring setters from me and sales reps from me, are they going to trust a random beginner who just messaged them like you? Probably not. But the person I trained in and the person I developed their skill set, they will probably hire them from me. That's also why I have people in my pipeline and people that come to me for sales reps that are doing, 100K, 200K, 500K, some doing 1 million per month, and they need sales reps to help them make more money. They're coming to me. They're not going to hire from a beginner, and that's why paid communities will be helpful. Where do you actually find these key people? Because if you're just starting right now, you probably don't want to join someone and pay for something. The best way is going to be Instagram followings mostly. People follow people that do what they do. Like, think about it. Football players will probably follow football players. A couple key people examples or like micro influencers that I'm going to show you is growth operator coaches that help people become growth operators like Yusuf Lashawal or Muhiz. Some sales managers like Adi Singh or Keisha. Closing coaches like Go to Sales or Club Closer. And what I'm going to show you now is that profiles will usually tell you what they do. For example, growth operators will have scaling coaches, info scaler, growth operator, or generated X for coaches in their bio. Sales managers will have sales infrastructures, managing teams, sales manager, recruitment in their bio. Closers will have high ticket closing, remote closer, or sales rep in their bio. And for example, I'm going to show you this is the growth operator coach I was talking about. So helped your favorite gurus make money, DME operator to get started. This is Adi, who I was talking about, is a sales manager, so sales and managing teams. And this is also Go to Sales, which is like helping someone get into remote sales. So you can kind of make sense of this. It's very easy to figure out who is who based on these things I've just told you. The point of this isn't for you to reach out to only these people. It's to be able to find people just like this, because just messaging these people will not result in much. The lowest leverage way for you to do outreach right now is going to be to coaches. It's going to be the easiest and it may pay off. So to do this, you have a few options. Number one is the outreach method. You want to make a new Instagram account and only like content from coaches because soon enough your entire feed will probably be coaches that need setters. Number 2 is go on a coach's account that helps coaches scale, like Nick's setting, go through his following, which is probably his clients, and then go and message them. Now you know how to find people, but what do you say to actually land the offer or land the role so you can start making money? And this is going to be an outreach method that I like to use. For this, we're going to use a personalized video and message. And you're probably wondering, how does personalization benefit me? Well, it builds trust instantly because nobody else is willing to do it. It makes you stand out from the crowd because it's personalized, and it gives you a brief 30 to 60-second window to sell yourself. The video structure that you are going to follow is the introduction, into purpose, into results or sale, and into outro. The script example that I'm going to show you real quick is something that I would do. Hey, I'm Val. I'm reaching out in regards to a potential appointment setting opportunity you may have available. I work with some of the largest teams in the space, such as X and Y. Alongside that, I've also accounted for over 7 figures in sales generated throughout my time as an appointment setter. I'm not here to waste your time. If you're looking for an A player who's reliable and actually knows what they're doing and that won't churn in a week, I'm your guy. So to analyze that script real quick for you, there was the basic introduction. There was straight to the point, no fluff. I showcased results and authority, so I showed I knew what I was doing and I was better than other people. And I gave the clear outcome and I broke their beliefs that I was an A player, I was high quality, and I wasn't just gonna churn. Meaning I'm not just gonna leave your offer within a week. So I pretty much showed them I knew what I was doing, I had the authority, I have experience, and I'm not going to be bad for your business. I am going to make you more money and you can trust me. But what if you have no experience? How do you make one of these videos? For authority, you can mention things like this, and this is what I would suggest. You can talk about previous retail or hospitality experience if you have any. Talk about your time in the space and how you've been mastering setting for the last X amount of months. Or you can talk about your mentor's results if possible, if you do have a mentor. If not, you should probably just stick to these two. What I would recommend and suggest is do not make your video longer than 1 minute. Make sure to smile in your video. Give off confidence. Don't sound like a robot. Get straight to the point. Avoid don't say and keep eye contact throughout the entire video. Common mistakes I see in outreach videos are always ugly backgrounds or horrible lighting or lack of confidence and a lot of ums and uhs and just general lack of structure. But if you just follow what I told you, you will be fine. Now I want to show you an example from one of my students who's doing 8K per month, and this was his outreach video.
Hey, my name's Sebastian. I've been in the high-ticket sales space for just over a year now. I used to work at a retail company where I was selling low to high-ticket tech offers where I brought in 10K in just under 4 weeks. More recently, I've been moving into the remote sales space where I've been an appointment set for the past few months where I've generated over 50K in deals. And most recently, for example, the offer that I've been on, I booked in 20 calls on launch in 24 hours. So if you need someone to book calls for you and to save up your time and have a calendar full of booked calls, I'm your guy. I'm super coachable as well. So any systems or software you want me to get used to, like CRMs, I'll be able to get to that very, very easily. And if you want someone buff, I'm the guy.
So you can see here, he showed up to the video. He has a nice t-shirt on. His background is nice. You know, he's got everything set up. This is 1.2x, by the way, for context. Good video. He shows authority. He shows some results. He also has a little bit of humor near the end. That is a good video. Now what I want to talk about is a bad video. Also, for context, this is one of my students, Caetano. We did not use this video because it's not good enough, but I just wanted to show you this as an example on what to avoid.
Yo, my name is Caetano. I'm from Brazil, and I'm 21, and I'm also a GM setter. And you may be thinking right now, oh, English is not his first language, so he can sell. Wrong. I entered this space for a couple months and I generated thousands and thousands of dollars from my clients. And I'm currently working in a part-time offer and I want to work my ass on it. So I'm looking for another offer, a full-time offer, because I only do this for a living right now. And I know that if you make more money, I will make more money. So if you're interested, let me know. Peace.
And the problem with that is he was putting too much emphasis on the fact that he wanted to help you make more money so he can make money. He didn't really talk about learning a skill set. He talked a little bit about experience, but he spent half the video talking about the fact that he didn't have an accent didn't mean he was going to do a bad job. There was no structure there. There wasn't really ums or uhs. His background was really bad, in my opinion. The lighting was okay. There was a little bit of confidence, but he definitely could have done a better job, like Seb, for example. Now that you've done the video and you know exactly what you need to look for, the next thing you're going to go through is the outreach message. And the first message example that you can use is going to be, hey name, I'm reaching out to see if you need a setter that will either solve the issue of X or Y, you know, lack of time or booking in calls. I sent a video below, feel free to check it out. Or you can say, hey name, I'm reaching out to see if you need a setter that will either solve the issue of lack of time or booked calls. If you like, I can send a video introducing myself. The main difference is, in one, you send the video, and the other, you don't really. The message is okay. You don't really change it up too much because it's short, it's sweet. The video is going to do the selling for you. Now you know how to create a video and what to say, but how many messages like this should you send? You know how to do outreach, you know how to do everything, but how many do you actually send? Messages you should send per day For the week 1, for the first week, you should do 30 per day. And after week 1, you should do 50 per day. But the reason you don't do more is because you want to avoid a DM ban or an action block where you get restricted and you cannot send any messages for a few days or a few weeks. Do 30 per day for the first week and then do 50 per day after that consistently until you start landing offers. Also, make sure to do your follow-ups. You're dealing with business people. They're going to be busy. They're probably going to miss your message. So you need to do follow-ups every 2 to 3 days until you get a reply, or hit at least 8 total outreach messages, and then you can just get rid of it. And also, if the message hasn't been seen yet, what you can do is delete it and send it again so you don't look as spammy. So if I send you a follow-up message like, hey name, and you don't see it, I could just delete it and then send it again and keep my original message at the top. Now, there's a few follow-up examples that you can do. You can do, hey name, I look forward to hearing from you, and just bumping this up in case you missed it. Do not overcomplicate this. I'm also going to give you a bonus strategy. And this strategy has landed multiple students of mine 5K plus setting jobs per month, and I'm going to show you kind of how to do it. So for this, we're going to leverage Twitter because it's kind of untapped. So appointment setting / setters is something you want to search up. For example, here we have appointment setters, and then we have someone who needs a couple setters with a good on-track earning offer. It's worth noting the on-track earning is typically a lie. So you do need to figure out, okay, how much is the offer making? And I'm going to show you how to evaluate offers in a little bit anyway. But this is the first example, appointment setters, and then also appointment setters here, but you can do appointment setting. This one is definitely real based on the fact that he's verified. The account looks real if you take a look at him. You know, there's a good engagement. But then if you look at this is probably a scam. 22% commissions, referral agent, talking about all these other things, no limits. This is just not real. You can very easily tell the difference between someone that's real and someone that's not. But what do you say when someone replies to you? What you want to do is you want to schedule an interview where you get to ask each other questions and you get to see if you're a good fit, if you want to work with them, and if they want to actually work with you. And if you do a good job, you can start setting on their account. So you're going to start thinking about it and you're going to say, what should I say or how should I act? I'm probably screwed. I'm not going to land this job. I don't know what to do. I'm going to show you everything. And matter of fact, this has helped me land 100% of the interviews I personally take it. But a couple questions you should expect is, what experience do you have? Why do you want the role? And how many hours can you commit? What are your long-term goals? What makes you stand out from others? What are you currently doing right now? And what niches have you worked in before? And to break that down, what experience do you have? Whether you've trained before and you've done ChatGPT role plays, whether you've trained with other setters, whether you're in a community or a program, whether you're just learning from experience from scratch. You could also talk about why you want this role. That's probably what they're going to ask you. You can say that you want to transition out of your current job or you want to transition into online, whatever approach you want to take. How many hours you commit? You should probably say at least 4 to 5 if you really can. You shouldn't lie about this. You should do at least 4 to 5 hours per day on this, or you should be like 8 or 9 if you actually can do that. The more, the merrier. What are your long-term goals with this? You can talk about how you want to transition out of setting into management or closing your growth operation, whatever it might be. What makes you stand out? You actually want to be honest and you want to say whether it's your skill set, whether it's better, whether you're hungrier, whether you're more coachable, right? You want to make sure that you have leverage over your competitors. What are you currently doing right now? So that's probably referring to if you're working on any offers or if you're working a job. And what niches have you worked in? You don't really see this too often, but it's worth preparing for. Now, questions you should ask. How much did you make last month? So revenue in cash, because if you say how much did you make last month and they say 100K, that might just be revenue. But if it's 100K cash and you're the only setter, 5% of that is 5K plus maybe a base pay, you can get 300, 500. Are there opportunities to grow within the team down the line? Are there opportunities to grow within the team down the line? This is another good question to incentivize them and show them that you want to progress and grow with the offer. So, you know, maybe the fact that you want to go into management or maybe become a closer, whatever it is, you just show them that you're hungry and you want to stay long term. The third question you should probably ask is, what is payment structure? So like commissions and base pay, or just one or the other. What I would look for is at least 5%, maybe 7.5% if you can. Base pay should be 300, 500, maybe 1,000. But if you get 5% and 300, that's good. If you get 5% and 500, that's good. You kind of get it, but you just want to look for something that actually makes sense and you're not just getting played. And the next thing is, what happened to the last setter? Because from there, you can kind of figure out if they made a mistake that you should avoid. And I'm also going to tell you the lines I've used that have helped me land all the interviews. And I probably shouldn't be leaking this, but I'm ready to start right now. This job is honestly my priority. I'm willing to treat this business as my own. And do you have any doubts in my ability to do this role to your standard? So I'm ready to start right now. It's going to show that you're hungry and it's going to show that you want to go all in. I'm going to treat this as my own business. Means you're probably not going to quit halfway through and you actually want to help them succeed as well. And do you have any doubts in my ability to do this role to your standard? It's pretty much you saying, do you doubt me? And if they say yes, then you figure out exactly what it is and you can reassure them. Remember, people pick people they like. So I'm going to drop some more sauce right now, but to maximize your chances of landing the interview, You want to book it for as soon as possible. And that pretty much means that the longer you wait, the less likely your chances become, because if they desperately need a setter, they're probably going to go for someone else if you take too long. And also move the conversation to WhatsApp as soon as possible. So if you message them on Instagram or on Twitter, move it to WhatsApp because they're more likely to reply there than just on Instagram or Facebook. And how do you make sure you definitely land the offer? I'm gonna drop some sauce. First of all, be easy to work with. Setting and sales managers want things to be as seamless and as easy as possible. So if you make their job a job, or if you just make it difficult, they will probably fire you. So you don't want to be someone that is extremely difficult to work with and to deal with. Initially, you'll learn and you'll ask questions, but that's okay. But over time, you should kind of relax. You shouldn't really be texting the manager every hour of every single day. Once you learn the grasp of everything on your own, you'll be okay. The next thing is do not talk out of your ass. They have worked and interviewed more setters than you can imagine. If they think you're lying, they will test you. So you shouldn't just talk out of your ass. How to evaluate offers. Majority of offers nowadays suck. So I'm going to show you how to figure that out and how to see if an offer is actually good. The first thing is high payment structure. It should be 5 to 7.5% commissions per sale. So $300 to $1,000 base pay sometimes. This may not always happen, but base pay is always good. You should always strive for commissions like this. Even 5% is good initially. Number 2 is a high ticket program. The program should be at least $3,000 because if you only get 5%, you get $150. Otherwise, you make nothing. So if it's a $1,000 program and you get 5%, you make $50 for booking an elite. Not as good as 3,000, not as good as 5 or 6,000. And number 3 is proven revenue. They should be making at least $20,000, otherwise your percentage will result to nothing. And that's $20,000 per month. If they're making $5,000 per month and you're on 5%, you're gonna make $250. If they're making $50,000 per month and you're the only setter on 5%, you're making $2,500. There is a big difference. To minimize the chances of you not making money and to maximize the chances of you actually making good money, you want to work with offers making more money. Number 4 is strong team and culture. You want to have the opportunity to grow and scale with them, so you should feel good actually working with the team. And number 5 is small team. There should be a low amount of setters, ideally just you, maybe a second one, because if there's a bunch of setters, like 8, you're competing with everyone for leftovers. Obviously, this depends on the revenue. It depends on how much the offer is making. But if they're not making that much money, like $20,000, $30,000 per month, which seems like a lot, I know, but if they're only making $30,000 per month, you're the setter, you make $1,500. If there's 3 other setters, 15 divided by 4, you're not going to make a lot of money. You're going to make like $375. And number 6, finally, is client results. So fulfillment for the offer is good and the students are happy. And I'm going to show you an example. This is a good offer. You get 5% commissions, which is good, and you also get 300 base. The program price is 5,000, so you get $250 per sale. And the revenue per month, or the cash per month, is 60,000, meaning that 5% you get 3,000 per month. And then the support and feedback, there's weekly group calls or coaching calls to make sure you get better, to get your feedback, to make sure you're okay. And then you're the only setter on the offer. And on top of that, the students are happy and they're getting results. And bad offer is going to be 3% commission. The program's $1,000. They make 4,000 per month, meaning you literally make peanuts. And the support is really bad. So there's a really toxic culture. The offer owner is really rude, or the team is really rude. And there's high competition, meaning there's 10 other setters and you're all competing for the same, couple $30 per sale or whatever it might be. Now we are going to talk about the onboarding process. So what should you expect when you actually get on an offer? Onboarding a new offer usually looks like this. You're going to get a congratulations. They're going to send over usernames and passwords for you to sign in. You're going to do an onboarding call. So like you're going to get on the call, they're going to sign you into everything. You'll go through all of that. They'll give you a verification code to bypass because it's Instagram. And then they're going to set KPIs, which are essentially key performance indicators or minimum standards. Normally, you'll be setting on the Instagram account. Other times they might have you use a platform like ManyChat or Go High Level. In those situations, don't even worry about it. I don't need you to stress out. They'll show you how to use it. They'll show you how to send messages on the platform, but it is literally all the same. It's really easy. Typically, if you get on an offer today or tomorrow, it's probably just going to be on Instagram. The onboarding process is quick and easy. So focus on your performance in the first few days, and this will tell them if hiring you was a mistake or if it was a great decision that's ultimately going to make them more money. How should you perform? First, understand that no matter what their KPIs are, you need to do way more. You want to show hunger. Most offers will say have 50 conversations and do, book in 2 to 3 calls per day. Realistically, you should do at least 100 conversations per day. And you should never set a limit on calls booked. When I was setting, I booked in 12 calls in a day on an offer and we made a lot of money that month. because I was consistently doing really well and I was doing 300-400 conversations per day. So you should always do, as much as you can, really. If they're saying 50, you should do 100. If they're saying 2 to 3, you should do as many as you can. Different offers will have different scripts and frameworks, but the fundamentals you learned today will still apply on all of these offers. And also, don't worry, if you feel like you got thrown in the deep end of a swimming pool when you got onboarded, that's normal. After a week, you'll know the offer like the back of your hand, and you'll realize it's actually a lot easier than you thought it would be. But to conclude for you, week 1, you focus on hitting at least 2 to 3 times the KPIs and aim for at least 5 qualified booked calls per day. Not just 5 booked calls, that people mentally qualified, people that are financially qualified and they actually feel urgency and they do want to buy. After that, momentum will kick in and you'll continue to perform at this rate because you're going to be making money, you're going to feel good, and you're going to keep performing. The next thing I want to talk about is offer stacking. Over time, you'll notice that sometimes offers get limited at $3,000 to $6,000 per month. Not all the time, but pretty often. When this happens, it is time for you to offer stack. And what this pretty much is working multiple offers at once in order to make more money. But how do you actually offer stack? The best way to do this is to build a personal brand while you get your results with your first offer. This means documenting your wins and networking with other guys in the space, like setters and managers and growth operators. But why should you build a personal brand? Because once you build a reputation and a network, instead of you having to go find offers and do an outreach, which you still might do, but good offers will come to you. This is because trust is really scarce in the online space, so a lot of people just don't trust random setters. Plus, there's not really a lot of many good setters, meaning you will be in demand if you can actually showcase and prove that you're real and good, and you build a reputation and a network. So what I would do is I would copy this, and this is one of my students who's now transitioning from setting into management. He has a lot of followers, so there's trust. We have a lot of mutual followers, like 32, meaning that, he is known in the space. He has a results highlight where he posts his wins. The main thing he should change is change his bio so it shows specifically what he does. Sales infrastructures, that could be growth operation, it could be setting, it could be managing, it could be closing. Nobody really knows. So be more specific. Next, we are going to talk about the possibilities with setting, transitioning. After a couple months, you'll naturally transition out of the setting position. And the fun part is that you will have a lot of options, just like things like remote closing, sales management, setting agency, setting coaching, or growth operation. Setting, like I said, is the main first entry point of sales. After that, there's so many different things you can venture into. If you do a good job with setting, you will have unlimited potential. One of my friends went from setting to closing to managing all the way into becoming a COO for a coaching company and went from doing $0 to $25,000 per month by the end of the year. So he now does about $300K per year, right after beginning as a setter in around a year ago. Right? Appointment setting might not feel like the most glamorous thing in the world at times, but it will make you thousands of dollars per month and bring you opportunities you probably never had before. So do it right and do exactly what I showed you today, and you will make good money, and you'll also be exposed to good opportunities. But what is next? What is next? If you want to learn more about how you can make $3,000 to $8,000 per month with appointment setting, without starting your own business, without trying to figure everything out on your own, and without being overwhelmed with this huge learning curve and responsibilities, I want you to go ahead and book a call with me in the link below. My guarantee to you is if you somehow do not make your full investment back within 120 days with my custom roadmap, my one-on-one coaching calls, my group training calls, video modules, and everything else I have inside, I will give you a full refund and train you for free until you double your investment. With that being said, hopefully you enjoyed the full training and got some value out of it. This is a longer video, but this should be everything to help you get started today. And if you do want the extra support, like I said, go ahead and book in a call with me down below. Peace.